Hi, I'm Amanda Bartlett, and this is the Live with Bartlett podcast. My first ever episode. I am so excited. So right now I'm on this Kindle book kick. And when I say Kindle, what I really mean is I have the Amazon version of it, the cheaper version. It's the Fire tablet. And I have to say, I am obsessed with it. It's the only thing that got me through Hurricane Ian. You know, I live in Florida, so I lost power for, gosh, I lost power for a long time, and then I lost Wi-Fi. I say it like it's like a sweater or something, but it's pretty significant for me. So yeah, so here we are, and I wanted to quickly share some of my favorite books that I've read. And the first one is going to be Rabbit, which is by Miss P, I think is her name. Miss Pat. She's a comedian. She's got this really incredible story, and it made me cry. She talks about how she came from nothing. She started selling drugs, and she got caught. She was a mom. She's got quite a few kids, and all she had to do was go to her probation officer, which is not that big of a deal. And she was like, no, I'm not going. And I'm pretty sure she had to go to prison for a year. And so everyone was like pumping her up in prison. These women that she met were encouraging her to like better yourself and go to school. And so she ends up going to school. I think she is like a medical assistant. And then her counselor or whatever, who's trying to get her a job, finally says to her, you know what? Why don't you just be a comedian? You would do really well. And the rest is history. It's definitely a story that kind of made me cry, and I love a good comeback story. I think it's beautiful, and it's in essence what the American dream is all about. So then the second book I recommend is The Last Mrs Parish. This book was so good, and at first I was like, man, like I hate this book. Like I'm only reading it out of obligation because it's a Reese book club book. Reese Witherspoon has her own book club, which I don't know how she has the time to do all that because she has kids and like a whole nother job. So I don't know how she's reading all these books so quickly. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe she does like the Reader's Digest version. I don't really know. But I usually read books from book club picks, however you say that. And this one was so good because there's a twist. And hopefully if you read the book, if you know, you know. But I will say this, I have never disliked a main character as much as I disliked her. I just thought she was so annoying. Everything that she did was weird to me. And I just couldn't wait for the book to be over. And then it switches and you see the wife's perspective, and it's just so good. Like the wife just flips the script, and I'm really happy for her, even though she's not real. And then the third book is The Breakup Agency. I was not expecting to like this book. It was one of those books where I had to kind of like brush through it and like glaze over it a little bit because my eyes were glazed over. But then all of a sudden it became this like really cute, really sweet love story. And it was like this push-pull of like, are they gonna be together? And I think anybody who has ever been in a fictional relationship with a guy, and I'm talking like you know, have this like fantasy relationship with this guy who's your crush, who you may or may not really talk to in real life. But yet there's almost this like feeling of like invincibility because you're like, nothing can hurt me because there's no relationship. And so maybe that's some of the better ones. I don't really know. But anyway, so that was a really good book. I would really recommend it if you're into the romantic love stories. I'm really not. Like, I'm really not a romance girl, but those freaking things suck you in. Can I just tell you that? And I don't like it, but it is what it is. So yeah, so Hurricane Ian was a bust. Thankfully, I'm okay. My family's okay. It's just gonna take time. And it's probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me since Maskne. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that. And then, anyway, so then the fourth book, Colleen Hoover, man, does she know how to write a story? This book, I mean, I was sobbing. It was so embarrassing. My sister was like, just stop reading it. Why are you doing this to yourself? Like, this is ridiculous. And I was like, it's just so good. Like, I just love it so much. And that is the book called Reminders of Him. And yeah, it's just a really good book. You're really rooting for this girl who has literally lost everything, and yet there's still hope. And I think at the root of that, we can learn a lot from it. So yeah, so that's my story. I'm working on reading 22 books for the year. I'm at 20, which is pretty exciting. I'm almost like, maybe I should take a break, but I'm not gonna do that. I was talking to my sister about this, and she was like, yeah, I can't relate because I don't read. But there is this thing where you have book loneliness. Like, you get lonely for the characters and you miss them because you're rooting for them, you get to know them, and then all of a sudden you sit there and it's almost like an empty feeling because you're like, I want to go back. Like, there was just some really good stuff there, and then you have to start a new book over, and it's like probably not as good as the last one. So yeah, so it's just a really interesting cycle, and yeah, I encourage you, if you're not a reader, to find a good book and get into reading.